A wealthy CEO enters his bathroom only to discover a cleaning lady peacefully resting on the toilet lid. And in that moment, he is captivated by an unexpected affection. Before we dive in, please share a comment to let us know your location while tuning in. Delight in the tale. Lily Collins had reached her breaking point. After a week of relentless double shifts, she found herself cleaning hotel rooms by day and taking on the night shift for a friend who seemed perpetually burdened by a fresh excuse for not showing up. Now here she stood, weary and spent, a mere shell of herself clutching a mop. The final VIP suite of the day was ready for its guests. All she desired was to wrap things up and head home. Gliding into the opulent bathroom with the leisurely pace of a drowsy turtle, she made her entrance. It was the largest she had ever encountered, roughly the dimensions of her entire apartment. Incredible! This location resembles a grand palace. Who requires a bathroom of this size? Is there an echo present? She whispered softly, as she poured the disinfectant into the sink. She diligently scrubbed, meticulously wiped, and thoroughly washed. Fatigue had set her on a course of automatic responses, yet the most challenging moments were still ahead. She lowered herself to tidy up around the bathtub, resting her head on her arm for just a moment, and in an instant, she sensed her body becoming weightier. Only 5 seconds. Only 5. And then she drifted off, right there, perched on the toilet lid. Dylan Scott had just concluded a long and tiring day filled with meetings. What he craved most was the embrace of silence and the soothing warmth of a hot shower. Upon entering his suite, he shed his suit and tie, unfastened his shirt, and made his way across the room directly to the bathroom. His mind solely focused on the comforting embrace of the steam. Without a glance back, he swung the door open and entered the room. And that was the moment he almost experienced a heart attack. What on earth? His voice reverberated through the bathroom, nearly fracturing the mirrors. Dylan recoiled, his heart racing as though he were facing a polar bear armed and ready to strike. There, propped against the toilet lid, was a woman in a hotel uniform, lost in slumber. Within the confines of his bathroom, the surprise was so overwhelming that he nearly flung his shirt at her, as if performing an exorcism. Lily, in that moment, was jolted awake by a scream so terrifying it echoed in her mind long after it faded. She sprang awake, her equilibrium faltering, and tumbled to the ground, sending the cleaning supply bucket crashing over. What on earth is going on? Dylan recoiled, as though she were a specter emerging from the depths of the drain. What brings you here, and who might you be in my space? Lily, utterly bewildered, stared wide-eyed at the man before her, his shirt absent. With a striking presence, he possesses tall stature, dark hair, an intense expression, and furious eyes that captivate, all complemented by his remarkable handsomeness. She blinked several times, attempting to absorb it all. Spacious restroom, luxurious fragrance of soap, staff attire. The visitor, the room for the guest. Reality descended upon her in a sudden rush. She stood still. Her eyes grew even wider as she exclaimed, "I didn't rob you, I swear." Dylan's eyes fluttered open. "Excuse me? I just drifted off here. No, that didn't come out right." Lily lifted her hands, as though a law enforcement officer had a weapon aimed at her. "I found myself tidying up and..." "So, you chose to take a nap in my bathroom? Or does your cleaning method involve taking naps in the bathrooms of your guests as well?" Lily hesitated, her words faltering. She found herself in a predicament. "It's not precisely that way. Text it is," but Dylan pinched the bridge of his nose, attempting to maintain his composure. "Is my bathroom now serving as a dormitory?" It was a brief slumber. "Oh, absolutely, just a quick 30-minute rest on the toilet seat." It was merely 5 minutes. "Do you have a timer in your mind or something?" "Sir, I understand this may appear unfavorable, but I dedicate my mornings and nights to this work. My body simply ceased to function." Dylan inhaled deeply. He felt the urge to be angry. Indeed, he truly did. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, the entire scenario was so ludicrous that he simply couldn't bring himself to do it. She appeared frantic, her cheeks tinged with shame, her hair disheveled, and gazing at him as though her very existence hinged on this instant. In a surprising turn of events, Dylan took an action that no one saw coming. With his arms crossed, he strode out of the bathroom and made his way to the kitchen. Lily hastened to keep up. He paused, faced her with a solemn look, and inquired, "Do you drink coffee?" Lily's eyes fluttered open. "What? Would you like some coffee? Do you partake in it?" "Absolutely. But what does it have to do with?" He reached for a cup on the counter and offered it to her. "Give it a go." Still perplexed, Lily grasped the cup and inhaled the aroma of the coffee. She instantly contorted her expression. "This is quite unfortunate." Dylan arched an eyebrow. "Could you really discern it just by the scent?" Lily paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Indeed, yes." A spark of intrigue flickered in his gaze. Dylan Scott, a man solely focused on business, found himself intrigued. Lily, desperate to escape with her job still in hand, remained oblivious to the impending events that awaited her. Lily clutched the coffee cup as if it were a ticking time bomb, ready to detonate at any moment. Dylan observed her, his face a mask of inscrutable emotions. With arms crossed, he fixed her with an intense gaze. She was utterly at a loss for what to do next. "Am I being let go?" she inquired, her tone scarcely rising above a murmur. Dylan inclined his head, pondering the notion with a thoughtful expression. "I'm still weighing my options." Lily sensed her knees buckle beneath her. "Really? You haven't?" He retrieved the cup and gazed into the depths of the dark liquid within. "Before that, could you clarify how you were able to determine that this coffee was terrible without even taking a sip?" "Well, it's quite clear, isn't it?" She responded with a furrowed brow. "The aroma is reminiscent of something charred, and the beans have been roasted excessively, resulting in an overpowering bitterness. It seems an attempt was made to mask it with sweetness, yet that only exacerbated the situation." Dylan lifted his brows in surprise. "So, you deduced all of that merely from the scent?" Lily parted her lips to reply, yet paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Hold on. What sparked his interest in this? I promise this isn't a regular occurrence for me." She attempted to downplay it. "I have just observed." Dylan remained quiet for a moment, observing her as if she were an intricate enigma awaiting his deciphering. Suddenly, he took a step back and rested against the counter. "Flawless. Flawless? I need your assistance to resolve this issue." Lily's eyes fluttered open. "What am I going to do? The coffee at the hotel leaves much to be desired. I voiced my concerns, yet no one seems able to resolve the issue. If you can discern the issue merely by the aroma, perhaps you can also uncover the problems with the other dishes as well." Lily emitted a dry, humorless laugh. "Absolutely. That is precisely the role of a cleaning staff member." At this moment, indeed, she stood still. "Apologies, but my focus is solely on cleaning. I am not involved with food at all." Dylan gave a nonchalant shrug. "Now you possess it." Lily regarded him as if he had just proposed that she leap from a plain sans parachute. "It's not something I can just transform into overnight. However, it's not necessary." He gestured toward the cup. "You already are." Lily's lips parted and then pressed together, a wave of confusion washing over her with each passing moment. Surely he must be joking, wouldn't he? Yet his expression conveyed the opposite. "Excuse me, sir? Is it Scott?" "Indeed." Dylan frowned, expressing his gratitude yet emphasizing, "I really need my job, and who claimed I'm letting you go?" Lily fell silent for a brief moment. "Scott, was this an evaluation?" She felt certain that her job was on the line, and now the CEO of the hotel was seeking her assistance with food. Everything felt disjointed. "This isn't some kind of trial, is it? If I decline, will that lead to my termination?" Dylan let out a weary sigh, clearly fatigued by the ongoing discussion. "If I had intended to let you go, it would have happened by now. Let's get real. There's a breakfast waiting for you to savor." Lily's eyes fluttered open. On the other hand, and once more, "Excuse me? Would you prefer to continue this debate, or shall we wrap it up quickly?" She was aware that she ought to refuse. Yet, She found it impossible to overlook the reality that he remained unwilling to release her. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a glimmer of hope for her to retain her position. Lily let out a deep breath. All right. However, if this is merely a scheme to let me go down the line, I swear. Fewer theatrics, greater caffeine. Lily found herself in a situation she couldn't quite comprehend. In one fleeting moment, she found herself in a heated debate within the confines of the CEO's bathroom. Moments later, she found herself seated at one of the finest tables in the hotel restaurant, a spread of exquisite dishes laid out before her, plates she was meant to sample. Dylan positioned himself opposite her, his arms folded tightly. Understood. Give them a go and share your thoughts with me. Her gaze shifted from the plates to him, a silent exchange unfolding between them. Are you really expecting me to consume all of this? Do you work back-to-back shifts? When did you last have a meal? Lily parted her lips to respond, yet the words eluded her memory. The stillness provided Dylan with the clarity he sought. Precisely. It's time to enjoy your meal. Lily paused for a moment, then reached for a fork and sampled the first dish. She contorted her features. The sauce has an overwhelming acidity. It seems as though an excess of lemon was employed to mask a mistake that occurred. Dylan nodded, a gesture that seemed to validate his suspicions. Next, she sampled a piece of meat and scrunched her nose in distaste. Overcooked. They employed a seasoning that completely clashes with the dish. One more plate. Should this be sweet or savory? At this moment, it feels quite perplexing. Dylan reclined in his chair, captivated. She not only identified the errors, but she also articulated precisely what was amiss. For the first time in ages, he felt a sense of admiration. Lily dabbed her lips and turned her gaze toward him. All right, am I free to leave now? Dylan inclined his head. Have you ever considered a career in the culinary world? Lily chuckled softly. Are you referring to consuming unhealthy food? No, recognizing it. Lily ceased her laughter. Excuse me? Your abilities are truly exceptional. Many individuals might not even notice a fraction of the errors you just highlighted. It's merely a playful ruse. It holds no significance. Dylan gazed at her for an extended moment, as if she had just uttered the most absurd statement imaginable. I'm sure others have expressed similar sentiments about you in the past. Lily parted her lips, yet silence enveloped her. He was indeed correct. Dylan rose to his feet, smoothing out his sleeves. Tomorrow morning you will join me in the kitchen. Please sample a selection of ingredients. Lily's eyes grew large with surprise. What is happening? And don't even think about escaping. I am aware of your workplace. Lily almost toppled from her seat. Are you out of your mind? At last, Dylan let out a laugh that night. Patience is key. The right moment will come. Lily devoted the whole night to unraveling the events that had just unfolded. She ought to have been let go. Indeed, any reasonable individual would have been promptly removed from the hotel for being discovered napping on the CEO's toilet lid. Yet, against all odds, she not only retained her position, but also found herself entangled in an unexpected scheme to enhance the hotel's breakfast offerings. Was it clear? Absolutely not. Was she eager to join in? That's not the case either. However, Dylan Scott appeared to be the type of individual who wouldn't take no for an answer. The following morning, she found herself trudging to the hotel kitchen, weary and silently pleading with herself to avoid any actions that might lead to her official dismissal. As she swung the kitchen door wide, her gaze fell upon Dylan, who was positioned beside the head chef. The CEO cast a quick look at his watch before turning his gaze toward her. You have arrived later than expected. Lily let out a deep breath. If you're planning to let me go, I would appreciate it if you could just get it over with now. I managed to catch just 3 hours of sleep. Dylan wore a sly grin. You will make it through. Come here now. The head chef, a towering figure with broad shoulders named Eduardo, regarded her with a wary gaze. Is this the person responsible for cleaning? He folded his arms across his chest. What is she doing here? Dylan responded in a monotone, preserving the hotel's breakfast. Eduardo scowled. With all due respect, Mr. Scott, my team possesses exceptional training and expertise. I believe we can do without the cleaner's perspective. Lily stood still, her body tense. She already sensed a disconnect in her presence here. Now she had to contend with a chef who viewed her as a mere punchline? Dylan, on the other hand, remained utterly unfazed. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to savor the food. If your team possessed the qualifications you claim, this discussion wouldn't be necessary. The weight of the silence enveloped the room, making Lily wish she could vanish beneath the counter. Eduardo tightened his jaw, a clear sign of his annoyance. What does Miss Collins have to say regarding my kitchen? Dylan waved his hand in Lily's direction. Discover it on your own. Lily stood still. Excuse me? You mentioned that the coffee was awful. Now, please share what issues there are with the other dishes. Eduardo emitted a laugh laced with sarcasm. Excellent. Let's listen to the insights of the cleaning specialist. Lily sensed a warm flush spread across her cheeks. What an insufferable individual. Yet, if he sought a spectacle, she would certainly provide it. Lily inhaled deeply, then seized a spoon to sample one of the dishes. She savored each bite, dissecting the intricate layers of taste. The scrambled eggs lack moisture. The butter you chose lacks quality, and the salt is not quite right. Eduardo folded his arms across his chest. What more is there? Lily grasped a slice of bread and savored a bite. The bread lacks freshness. It must have been baked yesterday, or perhaps it wasn't stored properly. Understood. What about the juice? She lifted a glass to her lips and savored a sip. She flinched. This is a catastrophe. Eduardo arched an eyebrow. What could be the reason for that? Because someone combined fresh orange juice with the store-bought variety and infused it with a hefty dose of letdown. Dylan suppressed a grin. Eduardo, in stark contrast, appeared on the verge of bursting with emotion. Very well, Miss Collins. If you consider yourself knowledgeable, what would you recommend? Lily cast a brief glance in his direction before shifting her attention to Dylan. Am I allowed to express myself openly, or does it come with peril? Dylan let out a soft laugh. Express yourself openly. Lily glanced over her shoulder at Eduardo. This establishment boasts a 5-star rating. Guests anticipate exceptional cuisine, yet the breakfast resembles that of an airport cafeteria. In my view, it's essential to enhance the quality of the ingredients. Authentic butter, artisanal bread, free-range eggs. The chef tightened his jaw. That requires financial investment. Poor quality food drives customers away. Eduardo's face flushed with color. Dylan, in contrast, appeared to be relishing the moment. Then it found its place. We will evaluate Miss Collins' recommendations. Eduardo appeared as if he were on the verge of consuming a cauldron of scalding liquid. This is a derogatory remark. With years of experience under my belt, I couldn't help but notice that this girl had just come from cleaning. Dylan shrugged. And yet she succeeded in highlighting every flaw in your meal in less than 5 minutes. The chef closed his mouth tightly. Dylan glanced over at Lily. Excellent work. It's time to take a break and recharge. Lily exited the restaurant, her body buzzing as if she had just completed a grueling marathon. For the first time, she sensed that she had accomplished something significant, even if it was merely preparing breakfast. Lily was meticulously folding sheets in the laundry room when Carla suddenly burst in, breathless and flustered. Lily. Lily lifted her gaze. What is it exactly? Lily grimaced as she heard the whispers about how you had embarrassed the chef in front of the CEO. I simply stated the facts. Carla's eyes grew wide with surprise. And he allowed you to leave unscathed? Approximately. Carla seized her by the shoulders. Are you involved with him? Lily struggled to catch her breath, her own saliva catching her off guard. Excuse me? There are rumors circulating that his support for your promotion is due to a personal relationship between you two. Lily concealed her expression behind her hands. I plan to vanish beneath the covers and never reemerge. Just as she was about to proceed, the laundry room door swung open. Eduardo entered the room. Miss Collins, Lily took a deep breath. Hello there. Eduardo inhaled deeply. I felt compelled to express that. This morning I made a foolish mistake. Lily stood still, her breath caught in her throat. What? You were correct. The breakfast ingredients were altered, and the guests thoroughly enjoyed it. Lily blinked, attempting to grasp whether she had truly heard what she thought. Was Eduardo expressing regret? He extended his hand. Will your perspective be reliable when we explore new dishes together? Lily gazed at his hand, then at Carla, whose expression was even more astonished than her own. With a weary breath, she grasped the chef's hand. As long as I can avoid the chore of washing the dishes afterward. Eduardo chuckled. Agreed. Carla stifled a delighted gasp. Lily found herself in an unexpected position at the hotel, uncertain of the path that lay ahead. Lily remained in disbelief over the events that had unfolded that morning. She, an unassuming member of the housekeeping team, had taken on the hotel's head chef, prepared breakfast, and somehow emerged from the ordeal intact. Not only did she endure, but she had also become a voice that others respected in the realm of food. However, this also implied that the whispers were circulating rapidly through the corridors of the hotel. What began with Lily resting in the CEO's bathroom soon evolved into a private moment shared between Lily and the CEO in that very space. By noon, the situation had intensified to rumors of Lily engaging in a clandestine romance with the boss, granting her unrestricted access to the kitchen. She attempted to brush off the inquisitive glances and the murmurs that floated behind her as she replaced the sheets in one of the rooms, but it was proving ineffective. So, it seems you've become the hotel's new darling, huh? The exasperating tone of Julia, one of the receptionists, caused Lily to let out a sigh before she even turned around. I have taken on the role of the official evaluator of subpar cuisine. That concludes everything. Julia folded her arms across her chest. Humorous. This hotel has never seen anyone rise through the ranks so quickly. It seems you've accomplished something quite remarkable to capture Mr. Scott's attention in such a way. Lily let out an exasperated sigh. Must I clarify it further? I found myself dozing off in his bathroom, and rather than letting me go, he insisted I sample some terrible coffee. That encapsulates the entire narrative. Julia arched an eyebrow, unmistakably skeptical. Absolutely. I have no doubt that's precisely what it was. Lily inhaled deeply. I appreciate your enthusiasm for sharing your theories, but I really must attend to my responsibilities. Pardon me. With determination, she seized her cleaning cart and maneuvered it down the hall, leaving no room for Julia's words to linger in the air. All she desired at this moment was for Dylan to give her some space. It was to be hoped that he had already dismissed his absurd notion of making her sample more dishes and would allow her to return to her usual routine. Yet she ought to have been aware. Dylan Scott had an impeccable memory. As the afternoon waned and Lily prepared to leave for some much-needed rest, a message from Carla arrived. Chef Eduardo would like to have a conversation with you in the kitchen. You should leave before he decides to toss you into the stew. Lily let out a deep breath. This is an endless cycle. As she entered the kitchen, she found Eduardo standing there, arms crossed in anticipation. Yet this time, he appeared to be far from poised for an assault on her. Mr. Scott would like to meet you at the restaurant. Once more, Lily let out a sigh. He seems to have endless energy, doesn't he? Eduardo wore a sly grin. Since you're still alive, I suppose that's not the case. With a sense of resignation, she headed to the restaurant, spotting Dylan at a table, poring over the menu with the focus of a trader analyzing market trends. I really ought to start charging for these consultations, Lily remarked, sliding into a chair and making herself comfortable without waiting for an invitation. Dylan raised his gaze to meet hers. Quite amusing. I give it my all. He paused, placing the menu down, and turned his gaze toward her, taking a moment to absorb the scene. Lily blinked, presenting a proposal to you. That doesn't seem promising. Do you enjoy it? I have my reservations. Dylan brushed her off and continued on his way. A significant culinary event is set to take place in Paris next week, ranking among the largest globally. Lily simply gazed at him, anticipating the moment that would bring clarity. Understood. So, please join me on this journey. She blinked once more. What am I? I trust you understood my point. I'd like you to join me on this journey." She burst into laughter, unable to comprehend what she was hearing. Hold on, hold on. Are you inviting me to accompany you to an extravagant culinary event in Paris?" "Precisely." She burst into even more laughter. "I work as a housekeeper, Scott. I tidy up spaces and polish fixtures. Are you really asking me to travel all the way to Paris just to give my opinion on a dish?" Dylan leaned in, elbows on the table, a serious look on his face. "You possess a unique gift, an exquisite taste, a quality that eludes many. I would like your assistance in pinpointing the top chefs and finest ingredients." Lily shook her head, her mind struggling to grasp the reality of the situation. "This situation is absolutely bewildering, and I find myself at a loss for where to begin. To begin with, my presence here is quite questionable. Secondly, who claims that I truly have a grasp on what I'm doing? I certainly do." She parted her lips to protest, yet the certainty reflected in his gaze silenced her. His faith in her left her feeling uneasy. "I am unable to accept." Dylan scowled. "Why not indeed? Why? It's utterly absurd. I am not familiar with these events at all. I didn't either during my initial visit." She let out a derisive laugh. "That stands out. You hold the position of a CEO, and you possess a remarkable talent." Lily found herself at a loss for words. Had anyone ever expressed something like that to her previously? Had anyone ever truly believed in her abilities? Her eyes fell to the surface of the table. "I am employed here. I will offer you double your current earnings at the hotel." Her eyes grew large with astonishment. "What is happening? It seems only just, given that you'll be lending me your support." She remained in disbelief that this was actually occurring. "I can't simply abandon everything. There's no obligation to do so. It's merely a brief 3-day excursion." Lily bit her lip, attempting to dismiss the unsettling sensation that she was stepping into a snare. Yet, when would she ever encounter a chance like this again? "I require some time for contemplation." Dylan gave a slight nod. "That works for me. However, please don't delay too much." Lily exited the restaurant, a sensation of the ground vanishing beneath her feet enveloping her. Was she genuinely contemplating this? Could she really be bold enough to embark on a journey with Dylan Scott? Perhaps she was, but she wasn't prepared to acknowledge it just yet. She devoted the remainder of the day to banishing the thought from her mind. She immersed herself in her tasks, meticulously folding bed linens and tidying up the rooms. Yet, whenever Dylan Scott's name was uttered, an unsettling shiver coursed through her. Had he truly proposed such an absurd offer? That person, in the city of light? As though she held significance? As though she held significance for him that transcended her role as merely an employee who, by mere chance, had piqued his interest? Whenever she pondered the matter, the most rational explanation surfaced in her thoughts. He was toying with her. There existed no alternative explanation. As her shift came to a close and she made her way back to her modest rented apartment, she sank onto the couch, her gaze fixed on the ceiling above. The journey spanned 3 days. 3 moments. If she agreed, she'd find herself on a plane with Dylan, heading to an event where she was a stranger, unfamiliar with the customs, and likely to feel utterly out of place. Yet, if she declined, Lily shut her eyes and inhaled deeply. This was an unparalleled chance. For years, they had insisted she was only suited for toil and nothing more. No one had ever gazed upon her and declared, "You're gifted." She had always been met with skepticism. Now, Dylan Scott, the hotel's CEO, was declaring that she was exceptional. He desired her presence alongside him, assisting in selecting the finest chefs and dishes, regardless of whether it was an error. Even if he was mistaken. For the first time, Lily felt a flicker of hope that perhaps there was something within her that held value. Before she had a chance to reconsider, she grabbed her phone and sent a message. "All right, I'm on board." Moments later, his response came through. "Fantastic. Prepare yourself for the journey ahead." She released a deep, weary breath. What in the world was she up to? The day of the journey came upon Lily more swiftly than she had anticipated. She stirred from sleep ahead of her alarm, hastily filling her bag with garments lent by Carla, who insisted that if one is to travel alongside a billionaire, one should at least attempt to exude affluence. With her palms dampened by nerves, she made her way to the airport. Dylan lounged in the VIP area, his attire as flawless as ever. He appeared utterly relaxed, as though this was merely a typical day for him. For Lily, it felt utterly dreamlike. You have arrived punctually. What an incredible occurrence. Lily let out an exasperated sigh. Dylan chuckled, reflecting on the idea of escaping, only to be reminded by his bank account that staying put was the wiser choice. That's the attitude. Before she had the chance to dwell on it, she found herself being guided onto the plane. However, this was far from an ordinary aircraft. She had taken to the skies before, but always squeezed into the confines of economy class, wishing to avoid the fate of sitting beside a snorer. At that moment, she found herself aboard a private jet, surrounded by plush leather seats, gourmet meals being presented, and ample room to twirl if the mood struck her. "All right," she remarked, glancing about. "This is far more pleasant than the airborne transport I'm accustomed to." Dylan offered a faint smile. "It's great to hear that I'm already making an impression on you." Lily settled into the seat, releasing a deep sigh. "There's no need for you to try to impress me, Scott. Please ensure that I avoid any embarrassing moments while in Paris. There are no guarantees." She glanced over at him. "It seems you take pleasure in putting me through this, don't you?" "A cherished activity of mine." The aircraft ascended, and Lily shut her eyes briefly, sensing the flutter of excitement in her stomach. She was truly embarking on a journey to Paris, accompanied by Dylan Scott. Nothing in her existence had ever felt this dreamlike. The hotel they were staying at resembled a scene straight from a film. The furniture gleamed with gold trim, chandeliers sparkled overhead, and plush carpets adorned the floor. The opulence of it all made Lily hesitant to reach out and disturb the lavish surroundings. However, the most challenging moments were still ahead. That evening, Dylan escorted her to a private dinner prior to the main event. In that moment, Lily understood the true extent of her predicament. The atmosphere in the room felt alien to her, as if she were an outsider gazing into a realm she could never truly enter. Women draped in elegant gowns and teetering on sky-high heels, men clad in impeccably tailored suits, all clutching wine glasses and conversing in French with the flair of cinematic icons. Lily, clad in a dress that wasn't truly hers, sensed a profound sense of imposture in their midst. Dylan, in contrast, appeared completely at ease. He glided through the room with ease, exchanging pleasantries with influential figures and engaging in conversation with celebrated chefs, while Lily attempted to project an air of confidence. Yet, the instant she dreaded came to pass. "Are you Miss Collins?" A middle-aged man came forward, his smile warm and courteous. Lily opened her eyes wide. "Indeed, what can I assist you with?" Dylan noted that you possess a remarkable ability to discern flavors. She cast a piercing look at Dylan, who merely grinned as if he were utterly blameless. He lifted a wine glass and offered it to her. "Could you please share the vintage of this wine with us?" Lily gazed at the glass with a wary expression, as though it contained something toxic. Dylan simply crossed his arms, a clear indication of his enjoyment. "Refrain from regarding me in such a manner. This is now a responsibility you hold." With determination, Lily clenched her jaw and took a cautious sip. The wine possessed a robust character, rich and intense, yet there was an intriguing quality that set it apart. She examined the flavor and, almost instinctively, remarked that this had been aged in oak barrels. Yet there was a hint of fruitiness. "It has to be of a recent variety. Perhaps around 3 years of age?" The man's gaze expanded in surprise. "Precisely." Lily stood still, her breath caught in her throat. "Excuse me? You've nailed it." Dylan beamed, content with himself. "Do you see? I had a feeling you excelled at this." Lily gazed at the glass as if the wine had just unveiled the mysteries of existence. Had she truly captured it accurately? Perhaps. Perhaps my presence here isn't as misguided as I once thought. The dinner unfolded, as Lily met an increasing number of guests, and with every dish she savored, her confidence blossomed just a touch more. As the night drew to a close and they made their way back to the hotel, Dylan glanced at her, a playful smile dancing on his lips. "I confess, you caught me off guard," Lily scoffed. "I astonished myself." He paused before her, tilting his head slightly. "What's the matter? Do you still believe you have no place in this world?" She gazed at him intently for an extended moment. For the first time, she found herself at a loss for words. Perhaps she truly found her place. Perhaps she had devoted too much time to the belief that she fell short. Dylan observed her intently for a few more seconds before offering a subtle smile. "Your talent is undeniable, Collins, and now that I've recognized it, I'm determined to keep you close." Lily experienced a chill coursing through her. Dylan Scott was never one to speak without purpose, and in that moment, she understood that this journey might transform far more than just her professional life. It has the potential to transform everything. Lily awoke the following morning, as if she were still caught in a dream. In the heart of Paris, she found herself in a luxurious 5-star hotel, accompanied by a billionaire CEO who, for reasons unknown, believed in her talent. If anyone had suggested that to her just a week prior, she would have burst into laughter and advised them to seek assistance. Yet here she found herself, nestled in the coziest bed she had ever known, gazing at the ceiling and pondering how her life had turned upside down in the blink of an eye. With a heavy heart, she rose and made her way to the window. The panorama of the city was simply stunning. Historic buildings, bustling streets, delightful cafes. Everything appeared as if it had been plucked straight from the silver screen. And there she was, Lily Collins, right in the heart of it all. The sound of a notification prompted her to reach for her phone. A message arrived from Dylan. "Morning meal at 8. Make sure to arrive on time." Lily let out an exasperated sigh. He doesn't even take a breather in Paris. Yet, even while her mind grumbled, she swiftly showered, dressed, and made her way downstairs to greet him. Dylan sat at a table in the hotel restaurant, engrossed in something on his phone. "Are you the one who always gets there before anyone else?" He glanced upward, a smirk playing on his lips as he regarded her. Some refer to it as being on time. Some refer to it as effectiveness. She settled into her seat and reached for the menu. "And I deem it intolerable." He chuckled. The waiter made his way over, and Dylan requested a black coffee. Lily, in contrast, chose a croissant accompanied by a steaming cup of hot chocolate. "So, you're not into coffee?" Dylan inquired, arching an eyebrow. "I appreciate it, but we find ourselves in Paris. The hot chocolate served here is truly a masterpiece." He remained silent, observing her as she lifted the cup to her lips, savoring the moment with a soft sigh and closed eyes. "This is absolutely fantastic." Dylan chuckled softly, shaking his head in amusement. "Your approach to food is truly earnest. You brought me here for this purpose, didn't you?" Indeed. They enjoyed breakfast at a leisurely pace, and Lily observed that, for the first time, his presence felt less peculiar, felt nearly instinctive. Once they had completed their task, Dylan settled the bill and rose to his feet. "A bustling day lies before us. Please don't say I have to explore more enigmatic wines." He chuckled softly. "Today revolves around culinary delights. We will be experiencing tastings curated by some of the finest chefs in France." Lily's eyes grew large with surprise. "That seems quite powerful. You will endure." She rolled her eyes but strolled beside him. The tastings unfolded in an exclusive room at the culinary event, where celebrated chefs crafted exquisite dishes for a chosen assembly of guests. Lily explored culinary creations she had never even dreamed of before. With a blend of refined flavors and sophisticated techniques, she found herself pleasantly surprised by her own expertise. She highlighted minor errors, uncovered hidden elements, and even proposed enhancements that caused several chefs to lift their brows in astonishment. Dylan observed her intently, his eyes reflecting a blend of intrigue and contentment. As the event drew to a close, they strolled through the hall when a striking woman made her way toward them. She was tall, blonde, clad in a fitted, luxurious dress, and her smile exuded an air of complete self-assurance. Lily found herself at a loss for her own identity, yet she instinctively identified the archetype before her, a figure unmistakably from Dylan's realm. The woman smiled and said, "Dylan Scott, it's been a while since we last connected." Dylan offered a courteous smile. "Madeline was quite surprised to find you here. Paris feels like my second home, my dear. And you?" She cast a glance at Lily. "Have you found some new companions?" Lily experienced a chill creeping along her spine as the woman scrutinized her from head to toe. "Lily Collins," Dylan remarked nonchalantly. "She is collaborating with me." Madeline smiled, yet Lily caught the faint glimmer of contempt beneath the surface. "Oh, how fascinating. What is her role in your collaboration?" Lily experienced a tumultuous sensation in her stomach. She understood precisely what that question suggested. Dylan observed as well and knitted his brow in thought. Lily possesses a remarkable gift for discerning flavors. She's assisting me in assessing the dishes at the event. Madeline pretended to be surprised. How intriguing. I could have sworn she was indeed something entirely different. Lily tightened her grip, her fists balling up in determination. She understood precisely what the woman was hinting at. Dylan observed her expression and softly placed a hand on her back, a subtle yet caring gesture. "It was a pleasure to see you, Madeline," he remarked, bringing the conversation to a close. Madeline cast a final look at Lily, a smile gracing her lips as she turned to leave. Lily exhaled, a release of tension she hadn't even noticed she was carrying. Dylan gazed at her. "Disregard it." She folded her arms across her chest. "Did you pick up on what she was hinting at?" "Indeed, and that's precisely why my presence is unwarranted." Dylan paused, softly grasping her arm to draw her gaze toward him. "Your presence here is a testament to your skill. The opinions of others hold no significance." Lily bit her lip, her gaze drifting elsewhere. "Simple for you to express. You possess immense wealth. You're intelligent, so let go of the worry." She longed to trust him, yet a part of her understood that individuals like Madeline would always regard someone like her as nothing more than an outsider. Later that night, as Lily sat alone at the hotel bar, she noticed Madeline conversing with Dylan from across the room, and to her dismay, they appeared quite intimate. She ought not to be concerned. Caring seemed utterly pointless. Yet, as Madeline's fingers brushed against Dylan's arm and a smile spread across his face, Lily sensed a knot tightening within her. She rose and exited the room, unable to discern what it was that eluded her understanding. Moments later, she found herself in her room, perched on the edge of the bed, attempting to reassure herself that it was insignificant. Yet her heart remained unconvinced. And for the first time, Lily understood that perhaps, just perhaps, she was beginning to develop feelings for Dylan Scott. Lily endured the entire night, attempting to push aside the unsettling feeling in her chest. She was indifferent, or at least, that was the mantra she repeated in her mind as she shifted restlessly in bed, searching for a cozy spot to drift off. Yet, whenever she shut her eyes, the vision of Dylan and Madeline conversing would emerge in her thoughts. The manner in which she caressed his arm, the way his smile lit up at her presence, how they appeared to share an unspoken connection in their own universe. What was Lily up to in that place? She felt like a young girl frolicking in a corporate office, a mere shadow in a film featuring affluent, polished individuals. Now that she was present, it seemed as though everyone was merely biding their time, anticipating her misstep so they could send her away. Perhaps that is precisely the course of action she ought to take. As dawn broke, Lily rose, resolute in her choice. She seized her phone and composed a message to Dylan. "I believe it's time for me to head home. I appreciate the chance, but I feel out of place here." She gazed at the screen for a brief moment before pressing send. Completed. Now simply hold on. However, the reply arrived far too swiftly. "Let's rendezvous at the restaurant in 10 minutes. Lily let out a heavy sigh. Excellent. With a sense of hesitation, she put on her clothes and made her way down to the restaurant. She discovered Dylan at the table, sipping coffee, his expression clouded with discontent. "Good morning," she remarked, taking a seat opposite him. Do you really believe you can send me a message like that and just disappear? I'm not fleeing from anything. I'm approaching this with a practical mindset. He folded his arms across his chest. Is it plausible? Absolutely. I understand, Dylan, and I'm grateful for all your efforts, but it just doesn't feel right for me to remain here. He gazed at her intently for a prolonged moment before tilting his head slightly. Is this concerning Madeline? Lily experienced a sudden lurch in her stomach. Excuse me? No, certainly not, Dylan smirked. You vanished the moment you noticed us conversing. I simply felt exhausted. Collins, your attempts at deception leave much to be desired. With a dramatic roll of her eyes, she snatched a piece of bread and slathered it with butter, putting on an air of indifference. This is unrelated to that matter. I believe accepting this trip was a misstep. What is the reason behind this? She let the bread slip from her fingers and turned her gaze toward him. For the simple reason that I am not you, Dylan. I lack sophistication. I am not fluent in French. I feel uncertain about how to behave at these gatherings. You noticed how Madeline gazed at me, just like everyone else does. Dylan let out a weary sigh, his hand moving to his face in a gesture of frustration. Is that all there is? Are you really considering giving up just because some pretentious individuals can't accept that your skills surpass theirs? I don't possess greater talent than others. Indeed you are. Lily remained quiet. Dylan bent forward, his eyes fixed with a piercing intensity. Do you really believe I brought you here without a purpose? I prefer to invest my time in those who bring significance to my life. Her heart began to race. He seldom offered praise to others. He seldom spoke in such a straightforward manner, and it truly ignited a desire within her to trust his words. Suddenly, Dylan rose to his feet and tossed a card onto the table. The deadline for your decision is noon. If you wish to depart, a flight back home has been arranged for you. However, if you wish to remain, join me in the main hall at 3 p.m. Lily glanced at the card before turning her gaze to him. Dylan observed her intently for a brief moment before making his exit from the restaurant. She inhaled deeply. What comes next? Remaining meant persisting in a reality that refused to embrace her. Yet departing signified acknowledging that she was fleeing. And Lily Collins faced everything head-on. As the clock chimed 3, she found herself in the grand hall. Dylan's face remained stoic upon seeing her, yet a hint of satisfaction lingered in his gaze. Excellent. Now cease pretending that you don't belong here and join me. And Lily, for the very first time since her arrival, resolved to take that step. The afternoon's event stood out as a pivotal moment in the food conference. Dylan engaged in discussions with investors, while Lily participated in a panel focused on emerging talents in the realm of international cuisine. She was resolute in her quest to absorb all that she could, heed the insights of those with experience, focus on the nuances, and strive to grasp what elevates a dish to unforgettable status. As she crafted her thoughts, she caught the faint murmur of two women conversing quietly behind her. Did you catch a glimpse of that girl with Dylan Scott? Indeed, it is said that he took a cleaning lady with him to Paris. Lily's cheeks burned with a sudden warmth. It could be a fleeting fancy of his, or perhaps she possesses a unique charm that captivates him, if you catch my drift. The two women shared a hearty laugh. Lily shut her eyes briefly, inhaling deeply. She refused to let it affect her. She refused to grant them that pleasure. Instead, she turned around with a warm smile and said, in a cheerful tone, "Oh, thank you for being so concerned about my life. I would be delighted to keep this discussion going, but I must return to the panel now. Ultimately, my focus is on the task at hand. Are you able to express the same sentiment?" The two women stood in stunned silence. Lily blinked, pivoted, and returned her focus to the panel, feeling considerably improved. She had no time to concern herself with insignificant individuals. As she encountered Dylan at the conclusion of the event, he perceived a distinct change in her demeanor. What transpired? She beamed with joy. It seems I've come to grasp the purpose of my presence. He arched an eyebrow. What could be the reason for that? Because I excel at this. Dylan wore a sly grin. At last, Lily experienced a sense of freedom for the first time in that place, not due to his selection, but because she made the decision to be present. And that transformed everything. Lily never imagined she could feel so at ease in a place that just days prior felt entirely beyond her grasp. But there she was, sitting next to Dylan, assessing dishes alongside some of the world's leading food critics, and for the first time, feeling entirely at home. She continued to draw attention. That was bound to happen. Whispers followed her every step as she passed by. They continued to regard her as an outsider for being present. Yet at this moment, Lily felt indifferent. And somehow, that appeared to unsettle people more than if she had simply surrendered and walked away. The evening descended swiftly, and Dylan arranged a dinner at a prestigious restaurant for a select group of guests. The ambience was refined, the cuisine exquisite, and the wine abundant. Lily attempted to engage with the discussions swirling around her, yet she soon recognized that she no longer needed to exert such effort. She had a keen ability to discern the ingredients present in every dish. She was able to discern the intricate specifics of the arrangements. She was in the process of acquiring knowledge. Dylan was fully aware of it. "You seem more self-assured," he remarked once the waiter brought out the dessert. "Do I appear more self-assured? Or have I truly reached that point?" Dylan beamed. "Both options." With a delicate motion, she grasped her fork and sliced into the dessert that lay before her. "What seems to be the issue? Your expression suggests a mix of surprise and contentment. What is the reason?" He inclined slightly toward the table, his gaze locked onto her. "I had faith in your abilities. I was simply anticipating your moment of realization as well." Lily sensed a flush creeping into her cheeks, but she masked it by lifting her glass for a sip of wine. The dinner proceeded as usual until Madeline made her entrance. As ever, she appeared as though she had just emerged from the pages of a fashion magazine, impeccable and self-assured. She settled at the table with an air of authority, casting a piercing smile in Lily's direction. "My dear, what a delightful surprise to find you here." Lily returned the smile. "I no longer hold any surprises. I'm beginning to immerse myself in this realm." Madeline lifted her brows in surprise. "Is that truly your perspective?" Dylan cleared his throat, cutting through their playful banter. "What has drawn you to this place, Madeline?" She took hold of a glass of wine, gave the liquid a gentle swirl, and smiled. A gentle reminder. Lily folded her arms across her chest. "Oh, that sounds captivating. Kindly continue." Madeline's gaze lingered on Dylan. "This world operates like a game, doesn't it? While you enjoy pushing your limits, there are certain aspects that just don't align with that pursuit." Lily caught the fleeting look the blonde cast in her direction. Dylan stayed unperturbed. "Madeline, I've had enough of your playful antics. If you have a point to make it already." The woman offered a gentle smile, inclining her body just a touch forward. "Have you ever paused to consider how this could impact your reputation? Introducing a cleaning lady in Paris, presenting her as though she possesses exceptional expertise. Conversations happen, Dylan. Trust me, there are plenty of people who are not pleased with it." Lily's anger surged within her. Yet before she could utter a word, Dylan interjected. "Who really pays attention to their words?" Madeline chuckled, her amusement suggesting he was rather innocent. "You, my dear. At your core, there has always been a sense of care. Your current position is a testament to your understanding of the rules of this game." Dylan locked eyes with her for a brief moment before a sly smile crept across his face. "It's amusing how I always believed the game revolved around skill. Lily possesses that in abundance." Madeline let out an exasperated sigh. "Do you genuinely believe that's sufficient?" Lily, who had been restraining herself until that moment, resolved it was time to voice her thoughts. "Madeline, may I pose a question to you?" The blonde gazed at her, taken aback by her boldness in diving into the conversation so openly. "What is it that troubles you so deeply? Isn't it remarkable that I'm present in this moment? Or the reality that you won't succeed in bringing me down?" The ensuing silence was thick enough to feel. Madeline's face momentarily stiffened, but she swiftly transformed it into a warm smile. You believe you have it all figured out, don't you? I possess intelligence. And you are aware of that. Dylan observed the interaction with a spark of humor in his gaze. Madeline inhaled deeply and gazed at him once more. All right, just remember I did give you a heads up. With a graceful rise, she smoothed her dress and exited the restaurant, leaving no glance behind. Lily let out a soft sigh as she reached for her glass of wine. If she's going to continue to be an issue, I'll require an increase in my compensation. Dylan chuckled, seizing his glass and lifting it high. Are you negotiating your salary already? I am rapidly acquiring new knowledge. He grinned, and they raised their glasses in celebration. Yet Lily understood that this was far from the end. Madeline was not the type to simply concede defeat. In some way, Lily sensed that this was merely the initial, tangible danger. For she had come to understand that in this world, foes seldom confronted one another directly. They lingered in the shadows, meticulously scheming, and just when you thought you were safe, they struck with precision. Lily was determined to prevent that from occurring. She was prepared to battle. Lily sensed a shift had occurred following that night. It was more than just Madeline. The entire ambience surrounding her felt altered. In the past, she was met with gazes filled with intrigue, as though everyone was anticipating her downfall. At this point, the animosity was unmistakable. She had turned into a challenge. She sensed it deep within her very being in no time at all. The following day, at a prestigious culinary gathering, she and Dylan stepped into the hall, and instantly, the murmurs began. Yet this time it was more than mere whispers. Individuals were expressing themselves candidly. I heard she worked as a maid at his hotel. He took a novice to Paris and feigned that she was a professional. Naturally, there's an additional motive for her presence. Lily sensed her frustration bubbling up, yet she made an effort to maintain her composure. She refused to grant them the pleasure of witnessing her unravel. Dylan, in contrast, was far from calm. He clenched his jaw and cast a fierce glare at those nearby, who swiftly averted their gazes, feigning innocence in their chatter. Collins just brushed them off. Simple for you to express. He gazed at her, his voice resolute. Do you seek to demonstrate your place in this space? Then behave as if these fools don't matter to you. The sole path to victory in this game lies in refusing to adhere to their rules. Lily inhaled deeply. He was indeed correct. If she behaved as though those words held significance, she would be validating their truth. With her chin held high, she brushed off the curious gazes and strode purposefully through the room, side by side with Dylan. However, the true highlight of the evening unfolded when they were presented with the opportunity to meet one of the globe's foremost culinary critics, Jacques Moreau. Mr. Scott, it's wonderful to encounter you once more. The elderly Frenchman, with keen eyes, shook Dylan's hand before shifting his attention to Lily. So, you must be Lily Collins, she blinked, taken aback. Have you heard of me? Oh, my dear. The entirety of Paris is abuzz with tales of you. Dylan suppressed a grin as Lily struggled to conceal her astonishment. All of Paris? Moreau chuckled at her expression. There's an undeniable allure to a scandal, particularly when it confronts the established order. However, I lean towards facts. He presented Lily with a tasting plate. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this dish. Her heart pounded with intensity. All eyes turned to observe. She lifted her fork, savored the dish, and shut her eyes, dissecting each nuance of flavor. She inhaled deeply and declared with assurance, the dish is technically flawless, yet it lacks surprise. The sauce has a timeless quality, yet it lacks a touch of vibrancy. A hint of citrus could perfectly offset the richness. Stillness. Lily paused, anticipation coursing through her, bracing herself for the sound of laughter or the sting of derisive glances. Yet Moreau wore a smile. Fascinating. She fluttered her eyelashes. Fascinating. In what way? He returned the plate to the waiter and folded his arms across his chest. Indeed, you are correct. Increased quietude. This time, there were no derisive gazes. There existed a sense of reverence. Dylan beamed, satisfied. I mentioned she was exceptional. Moreau nodded, a look of admiration crossing his face. "Mademoiselle Collins, I shall observe your journey with keen anticipation." As he turned and left, Lily released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Dylan leaned in close to her and murmured, "Now they understand you're serious." She was uncertain whether a sense of relief washed over her or if an even heavier burden had settled upon her shoulders. Yet, for the first time, she sensed that she had emerged victorious from a struggle. The issue arose when one begins to succeed in a perilous game. Others resort to increasingly unscrupulous tactics. Unbeknownst to Lily, an unexpected turn of events loomed on the horizon. The following morning, a message arrived from an unfamiliar number. For those seeking the real story behind Dylan Scott, the hotel bar is the place to be. 1,500 hours by herself. She frowned. What on earth was that? Without hesitation, she sent the message along to Dylan. But the reply came back swiftly and caught her off guard. "Please stay." Lily glanced at her phone, a chill creeping down her spine. If Dylan was reluctant to let her leave, it suggested there was something significant at play, and she had to uncover the truth. At 3 p.m., she found herself in the hotel bar, patiently awaiting her companion. Then Madeline arrived. "Ah, so you decided to show up." Lily folded her arms across her chest. "I find myself intrigued." Madeline settled into her chair, a glass of wine in hand. "You're clever, Collins. Yet, this world remains unfamiliar to you. So, you believe you can impart your wisdom to me?" The blonde chuckled, a playful shake of her head accompanying her amusement. "I have nothing to impart to you. I have something to share with you." She picked up her phone, glided her finger across the screen, and presented it to Lily. There was an image featuring Dylan alongside Madeline. What appeared to be an enchanting evening meal. Lily experienced a sudden lurch in her stomach. "What is this?" "A delightful dinner, my dear. Do you really believe you're the first woman Dylan has chosen to take to Paris?" Lily sealed her lips tightly. "Could you clarify what you mean by that?" Madeline beamed, inclining her body toward the table. "Do you not understand? To him, you're merely a fleeting fancy." Lily felt a bubbling urge to laugh. She was aware that Madeline had a knack for manipulation. She was determined to instill doubt about Dylan in her. However, one must wonder why he had never brought up Madeline. Why had he never clarified what their relationship entailed? Madeline observed the pause and offered a warm smile. "Depart now while you have the chance before he casts you aside." Lily rose to her feet, clutching her bag tightly. "I appreciate your concern, Madeline. However, if Dylan intends to cast me aside, he must confront me directly and express it to my face." She departed without a glance over her shoulder, yet her heart raced with fervor. For the first time, a seed of doubt had taken root. She had to uncover the truth. That evening, as she made her way back to the hotel, Dylan stood waiting for her in the hallway. "I specifically asked you not to go." Lily folded her arms across her chest. "And I proceeded regardless." His eyes glimmered with a blend of irritation and humor. "I'm torn between admiration for you and the urge to confine you until this journey concludes. Wishing you the best in your endeavors." He let out a weary sigh and massaged the tension from his neck. "What did she tell you?" Lily observed him intently for a moment before she found her voice. "That I'm merely a fleeting fancy of yours." Dylan stood still, caught in the moment. She observed the slight tightening of his jaw. Yet he swiftly found his poise once more. "So, you actually believe that?" She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "I would like to hear your thoughts on this." He gazed at her intently for a prolonged moment before taking a step closer. "Collins, if I desired a companion, I would have selected someone who didn't constantly push my buttons." Her heart raced with sudden excitement. "What do I mean to you?" Dylan regarded her with an expression that suggested the question was utterly absurd. "You are the one who compels me to shatter every boundary I've established." Lily sensed the breath escape her. Yet, just as she was about to reply, he inched closer and murmured softly, "And that terrifies me more than anything else." She found herself at a loss for words. Amidst the myriad of responses she had envisioned, that particular one caught her completely off guard. Lily sensed her heart racing intensely, convinced that Dylan could hear its rhythm. Let's enjoy ourselves with those who merely skim through the comments. Leave a comment with McDonald's. Only those who reach this point will truly comprehend. Let us proceed with the narrative. She was taken aback by that reply. She was taken aback by his straightforwardness. And above all, she never anticipated that he would render her utterly speechless. Dylan Scott, the focused and meticulous CEO, had just confessed that she utterly disrupted his life. The most unfortunate aspect? Lily was certain he spoke the truth. Yet, rather than experiencing joy, a surge of bewilderment enveloped her. This was never part of her plan. She never intended to become enamored with someone like him. And now she stood before him, uncertain of her next move. Dylan gazed at her, anticipation hanging in the air, yet she found herself at a loss for words. After what seemed like an eternity of silence, he finally took a step back. It would be wise to take some time to recharge. His voice was steady, yet Lily sensed an unusual quality in his tone. Disillusionment, and it struck her with the force of a blow. Dylan always kept his feelings hidden. Yet, at that moment he revealed his thoughts to her. In that moment, she became completely still. He said nothing more, simply turning to walk down the hallway, leaving Lily to grapple with her swirling thoughts. She stepped into the room, secured the door, and collapsed onto the bed, her hands gliding over her face. What was unfolding for her? She had never experienced a deep connection with someone. She never permitted herself to experience emotions for anyone, for she understood that ultimately, people always departed. That had constituted her existence, her whole existence. And now Dylan had arrived, thrown everything into disarray, and expected her to place her trust in him? It was terrifying. Yet, deep down her heart resisted the urge to flee, and that filled her with even greater fear. The following day, Lily made an effort to appear composed. She put on her clothes, ate breakfast in solitude, and made her way to the food event as though everything was perfectly normal. Yet, the reality was that everything had transformed. Dylan was absent for breakfast. No messages were sent by him. For the first time, Lily understood the depth of her longing for his presence. The morning stretched endlessly. She participated in several tastings, attempted to brush off the gazes from those around her, and feigned indifference to the anticipation of spotting Dylan at any moment. However, he failed to appear. At last, as the afternoon waned, the unavoidable occurred. In the main hall, she was immersed in the analysis of a dish when a woman's voice suddenly broke through beside her. It appears that someone has been overlooked. Lily briefly shut her eyes before pivoting around. Madeline stood there, her smile radiating triumph. What is it that you seek at this moment? Just reaching out to see how you're doing. Following your chat with Dylan last night, he appears to be quite aloof. Lily folded her arms, a surge of anger rising within her. Could you clarify what you mean by that? Madeline offered a sidelong grin. Oh darling, you genuinely believed he would come after you? Dylan isn't one to bide his time for anyone. If you choose not to engage in the game, he will seek out someone who is willing to participate. Lily experienced a constriction in her chest, yet she maintained a composed demeanor. Your concern for me is quite evident. Simply pragmatic. Perhaps you're feeling anxious because it dawns on you that this time, Dylan has selected someone beyond his influence. Madeline squinted her eyes in concentration. Your understanding seems quite limited on this matter. Indeed, I do. Do you realize something? I may be uncertain about the direction I'm headed, but at least I'm not wasting my time trying to control others for a sense of superiority. Madeline chuckled softly. Do you genuinely believe he has any concern for you? Lily restrained her fury and moved ahead with determination. I understand he has concern, but unlike you, I feel no obligation to demonstrate anything to anyone. Before Madeline had a chance to reply, Lily pivoted and exited the room, her head held high. She may not have all the details about Dylan, yet she understood he was different from Madeline. In that moment, it dawned on her that the urge to flee had faded away. She was determined to confront this directly. That evening, Lily found it impossible to remain calm. She was aware of Dylan's whereabouts. She was aware that he was dining at the hotel's restaurant with a few investors. She understood that a conversation with him was essential. With a steadying breath, she donned her coat and exited the room, striding purposefully toward the restaurant. Upon her entrance, her gaze fell upon him. Dylan occupied a seat at the central table, engaged in conversation with several men dressed in suits. He appeared earnest, deeply engaged in the discussion. Yet, in that moment, as if sensing her essence, his gaze locked onto hers. In that instant, everything else faded away. Lily was uncertain whether it was her own steps echoing or if it was his presence beside her. In that moment, as they stood before one another, an unspoken understanding hung in the air. Their eyes locked in a profound silence. "It's time for a conversation," she spoke plainly. Dylan examined her expression for a brief moment before shifting his attention to the investors. "Pardon me, sirs." Without a moment's pause, he grasped Lily's hand and led her away from that place. They moved quietly along the hotel corridors, their footsteps echoing softly, until they arrived at the secluded balcony, where they paused at last. The frigid night air caressed Lily's skin, yet she remained unfazed. For her, nothing else held significance but the man before her. Dylan slipped his hands into his pockets, observing her intently. "What's happening?" Lily inhaled deeply. "You were correct." He knitted his brow in thought. "What is the topic?" "Let me share a bit about myself. Concerning my tendency to flee." He remained quiet, biding his time. Lily cast her gaze toward the sky for a brief moment before returning to his eyes. "I kept everyone at a distance, haunted by the fear that, ultimately, they would walk away. However, she gulped. "Your presence inspired me to linger." Dylan remained still, yet a shift occurred in his gaze. "I attempted to persuade myself that it held no significance. However, it indeed does. Despite the fear that grips me, I refuse to flee any longer." The stillness that enveloped them felt as though it bore the burden of existence itself. Dylan moved closer, his lips meeting hers in a silent embrace. The kiss was electric, brimming with all the unspoken emotions that had lingered between them for ages. Lily sensed his hands cradling her face, his lips meeting hers with a fervor that erased all else from her mind. Disregard the hotel. Let go of Paris. Leave the world behind. In that instant, he was the sole presence that mattered. As they parted, Lily felt her heart continue to race. Dylan leaned his forehead gently against hers, a subtle smile gracing his lips. "At last," she chuckled, a comforting warmth spreading through her chest. "At last." Yet, beneath the surface, Lily was aware. This was not the conclusion of the tale. The journey had only just commenced, and she stood poised for whatever lay ahead. Lily's smile was unstoppable. From the moment Dylan kissed her, the world around her felt transformed. It was as if the world had taken on a new hue. She could never have envisioned finding herself in this place. She never envisioned that she would develop feelings for someone like Dylan Scott. Yet it occurred. For the first time, she felt no urge to escape. That morning, as she descended the stairs for breakfast, Dylan was already present, seated at a table that was theirs alone. "Greetings, Collins." Lily beamed and took a seat opposite him. "Seems you're feeling quite cheerful." He inclined his head slightly. "Is that unexpected for you?" She grabbed a slice of toast and sank her teeth into it before responding. "Let's just put it this way. Extraordinary." Dylan grinned slyly and savored a sip of his coffee. "So, what are your thoughts after last night?" Lily let out a soft sigh, her arms folding across the table. "Honestly, I'm still feeling a bit perplexed." "Perplexed? This is a first for me, Dylan. No one has ever been allowed this near to me before." He examined her expression for a brief moment before replying, "Me neither." Lily blinked, taken aback. Dylan always appeared to exude confidence. She never envisioned that he too could be venturing into uncharted realms. "So, does that imply we're—" Dylan arched an eyebrow. In unison, she inhaled deeply. "Indeed." He placed his coffee cup down and met her gaze directly. "If you wish to, Collins," she smiled. "I certainly do." Dylan bent forward, his attention fixed on the table. "Excellent." He grasped her hand softly, a tender squeeze that spoke volumes. Lily sensed her heart quicken. Yet, beneath the surface, she understood that the struggle was far from finished. Dylan inhabited a realm fraught with challenges. There were those who expressed discontent at their union. That afternoon, as she strolled through the hotel, a shiver coursed down Lily's spine. From the outset of the journey, murmurs about her had been circulating among the travelers. Yet there was a shift in the air. The appearances were more unfavorable. The expressions are increasingly malevolent. As she strolled by the reception, she caught snippets of conversation between two women. "Have you caught wind of the latest headlines? Indeed, it's a disgrace." Lily scowled and snatched her phone. As she launched the browser, the moment her eyes landed on the headline, a chill coursed through her veins. CEO Dylan Scott entangled in a controversial affair with a former housekeeping staff member. She clicked on the article, and her astonishment only deepened. Insider sources reveal that Lily Collins, who previously worked as a maid at the Scott Hotel, was whisked away on an extravagant trip to Paris and received a promotion under questionable conditions. It has been suggested that the young woman could be leveraging her connection with the CEO to propel her career forward. Lily sensed her breath becoming more rapid. The piece transcended mere gossip. It was an outright assault. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. "Dylan, where have you gone?" She took a breath and answered, "At the reception." Moments later, Dylan made his entrance. Yet, his expression was far from joyful. He clutched his phone tightly, and the fury etched on his face conveyed everything without a word. "I will uncover the identity of the person responsible for this." Lily emitted a dry, humorless laugh. "Is it truly necessary for you to discover this?" Dylan scowled. "Could you clarify what you mean?" She folded her arms across her chest. "This bears Madeline's name in every detail." He sealed his lips tightly. "I had a feeling about that." Lily inhaled deeply. "I anticipated that people would have something to say. However, this situation stands apart." Dylan grasped her hand gently. "I will handle it." She gazed into his eyes. "What is the process?" He offered a subtle smile. "The path I choose." That evening, Dylan summoned a press conference at the hotel. As Lily stepped into the room, she was met with a sea of reporters filling every corner. Flashes erupting, cameras capturing every moment. Fear gripped her like never before. Yet, in that moment, her gaze fell upon Dylan on stage, unwavering and resolute. He seized the microphone and commenced. "It seems many of you have gathered due to the speculation surrounding my relationship with Lily Collins. Allow me to clarify a point." Silence enveloped the entire room. Dylan fixed his gaze on the cameras. "Lily Collins did not receive a promotion due to any connection with me. Her promotion came as no surprise, as her remarkable talent and consistent demonstrations of deserving her position have been evident time and again." Lily experienced a tightness in her throat. Dylan pressed on. "For anyone who believes this is a scandal, I simply don't care." The journalists shared astonished looks. "I have always stood firm against the tides of public opinion, and that resolve remains unshaken." He gazed at Lily. "I made my choice to be with her, and I stand by it without any regrets." Lily sensed a fiery sting in her eyes. Dylan had risked it all for her. In that instant, she came to a profound understanding. What they said was of no consequence. No matter their efforts, it was all in vain. Together, they would confront it. As the press conference drew to a close, Dylan made his way over to her. "What are your thoughts?" Lily chuckled, her heart pounding with excitement. "You've truly lost your mind." He wore a smile. "And you remain present." She cradled his face gently in her hands and declared without a moment's pause, "Always." And then, disregarding the bright flashes and the onlookers, she kissed him. For the first time, Lily felt a sense of belonging in that place. And no one was going to pry her away from that spot. Lily had never imagined that her life could transform so dramatically in such a brief period. A few weeks prior, she was merely a member of the cleaning staff, toiling away during the day and taking on night shifts to make ends meet. At that moment, she found herself enveloped in the embrace of Dylan Scott, surrounded by the enchanting allure of Paris. Her name dominated the headlines as the woman who captivated the billionaire CEO. What had once appeared as a far-off fantasy had transformed into her present truth. She felt a sense of peace, unburdened by any lingering doubts. The day following the press conference, Lily awoke to her phone vibrating incessantly. Communications from Carla, from the hotel personnel, from unidentified contacts. Several offered their congratulations to her. Critics pounced, labeling her an opportunist who merely stumbled upon good fortune. Yet, none of that held any significance. What was significant was that, for the first time, she experienced a sense of companionship. As she descended for breakfast, she discovered Dylan at their usual table, just as he always was. Yet, on this occasion, he appeared transformed, less tense. "Did you have a good night's rest?" he inquired as she took her seat. Lily picked up a cup of coffee, a smile spreading across her face. "An improvement over the previous nights. I can imagine. Your name appears in every publication." She let out an exasperated sigh. "There was really no need for that press conference, you realize." He inclined his head. "I certainly did." Lily let out a soft sigh as she reached for a croissant, savoring the first bite. "It seems you have a knack for adding layers of complexity, don't you?" Dylan beamed with delight. "Forever." She shook her head, a laugh escaping her lips. Yet, her smile dimmed as she caught sight of a well-known silhouette stepping into the restaurant. Madeline, the blonde, appeared impeccable as ever. Yet her stare was more frigid than it had ever been. She approached their table with purpose and paused next to Dylan. "May we have a conversation?" Dylan sipped his coffee, an eyebrow arching in curiosity. "If this is yet another one of your monologues, count me out." Madeline mustered a smile and turned her gaze toward Lily. "It isn't a speech. I simply wish to clarify a few matters." Lily folded her arms across her chest. "Oh, so now the conversation is on your agenda? After attempting to tarnish my reputation in front of others?" Madeline let out a weary breath. "Lily, please comprehend. My actions were not driven by personal motives." Lily emitted a laugh filled with disbelief. "Oh, is that so? Was spreading lies about me to the world merely a minor detail?" Madeline sealed her lips tightly. They were not falsehoods. They were uncomfortable realities. Dylan reclined in his chair. "Madeline, if you have something on your mind, feel free to express it." She inhaled deeply and fixed her gaze on Lily. "The rules of the game have been altered. This world resists transformation with great reluctance. However, despite your victory in this struggle, it's important to recognize that there will always be individuals seeking to undermine your success." Lily maintained a firm gaze. "So, essentially, you're advising me to exercise caution?" Madeline gave a slight nod. "And to ready yourself. This moment marks merely the start of what is to come." Dylan rose to his feet, his voice steady and determined. "Lily has no reason to be concerned about anything. She is accompanied." Madeline gazed at him intently for a prolonged moment before taking a step back. "Wishing you both the best of luck." And with that, she departed. Lily exhaled, a release she hadn't been aware she needed. Dylan reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "How are you doing?" She gazed at him, a smile gracing her lips. "Absolutely, because I am confident that regardless of what comes our way, we will confront it side by side." He gripped her tightly. In that instant, Lily realized that nothing could ever shatter their bond. The final day in Paris passed in a blur. Lily and Dylan participated in additional events and encountered a greater number of individuals. And gradually, she came to understand that she was no longer viewed as an outsider. She was beginning to earn the respect of those around her. On the final evening, Dylan escorted her to a dinner at one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. The ambience exuded sophistication, and the cuisine was impeccable. Yet, Lily found herself captivated by the man before her, overshadowing all other distractions. "What occurs when we return home?" she inquired. Dylan raised his wine glass, his gaze lingering on her for a heartbeat before he responded. "Would you like to return to the hotel?" Lily paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. She had consistently put in the effort to establish her own niche. Yet her life had transformed. "I have a deep passion for my craft, yet I feel a stirring desire for a fresh adventure." Dylan beamed. "I have a suggestion to put forward." She arched an eyebrow. "I am all ears." He placed his glass gently on the table and grasped her hand. "Collaborate with me, not in the capacity of a hotel employee, but as my companion. Your skills are impressive, Lily. Let's collaborate and bring something to life together." Her heart pounded in her chest. "Is this for real?" "I always speak with intention." She inhaled deeply. It was a significant leap forward. Yet, as she gazed into his eyes, the answer became clear to her. "I agree." Dylan beamed with delight. "Excellent selection." They raised their glasses in celebration. That night, Lily realized her life was about to change forever. The aircraft touched down once more in the city. With a deep breath, Lily stepped out of the private jet. She returned to the world around her. Yet her reality had shifted dramatically. As they settled into the car, Dylan grasped her hand. "Are you prepared to embark on this new journey?" Her lips curved into a smile. "I have never felt more prepared for anything in my life." He drew her into a passionate embrace, their lips meeting in a fervent kiss. And Lily was aware. Her fate was always meant to be more than merely tidying hotel rooms. Her fate lay intertwined with Dylan's. Lily had never envisioned that her life would veer in such an unexpected direction. From diligent efforts as a cleaning staff member to achieving expertise in the realm of gastronomy, alongside one of the most influential figures in the industry. And above all, she never anticipated that love would find her on this journey. Over the past few months, her bond with Dylan had deepened significantly. They collaborated, journeyed to numerous global events, and developed a groundbreaking project within the Scott Hotel's empire. Yet, in the end, their bond was what truly mattered. And that was everything Lily required. Or at least, that was her belief. For the reason that Dylan Scott still had a knack for catching her off guard. On that fateful night, he was ready to demonstrate it. It was an extraordinary evening. Lily and Dylan found themselves at an exquisite seaside restaurant, a stunning locale that stood out as one of the most enchanting places they had ever explored together. Gentle illumination graced the table set aside for their gathering. A gentle breeze caressed their skin. Lily gazed at Dylan, a smile gracing her lips. "You've been remarkably silent." He lifted his wine glass, observing her for a brief moment before a subtle smile graced his lips. "Perhaps it's due to my anticipation for the perfect moment," she said with a frown. "What is the right moment for?" Dylan merely shook his head in response. "Patience is key." Just as she was about to pose another question, a violinist emerged in the restaurant, filling the air with a gentle tune. The melody was enchanting, passionate. Lily surveyed her surroundings, her heart pounding in her chest. That night held an unmistakable sense of change. Then Dylan grasped her hand. "Collins." She glanced at him, taken aback by the depth of his gaze, which seemed more intense than before. "Do you recall the moment our paths first crossed?" Lily chuckled softly. "Unforgettable. I found myself dozing off in your bathroom." Dylan beamed. "Absolutely. In that instant, I realized my life was about to change forever." Lily felt a sudden rush of excitement. "Dylan." He rose to his feet and retrieved a small velvet box from his pocket. Lily paused, her breath caught in her throat. Silence fell over the restaurant as all the guests hushed their conversations. Dylan sank to his knees before her. "From the very beginning, you've pushed me to my limits. You brought laughter back into my life when I believed it was lost to me. You revealed to me that existence encompasses far more than just labor and prestige." Lily's eyes brimmed with tears. "I can be quite a challenge to deal with. Yet, If there's a single lesson I've grasped since you entered my world, it's that I cannot envision a future devoid of you. As he lifted the lid of the box, a breathtaking ring came into view. Lily Collins, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Her cheeks glistened with tears. Her heart pounded in her chest. Her entire universe was in a whirlwind. Amidst everything, there was a singular answer that resonated clearly. With a warm smile, Dylan grasped her hand gently and placed the ring on her finger with care. He rose to his feet, gently cradled her face in his hands, and pressed his lips to hers, pouring into that kiss every ounce of feeling he possessed. Cheers filled the restaurant, echoing with enthusiasm. Yet Lily could solely sense him. He and the affection that encompassed her whole being. 2 months later, Lily strolled through a garden brimming with blossoms, clad in white, clutching a bouquet in her quivering hands. The ceremony unfolded in the open air, set against the stunning backdrop of a private estate overlooking the shimmering sea. The golden sun dipped below the horizon, painting a picture that seemed to leap from the pages of a fairy tale. And at the end of the aisle, there he stood. Dylan, clad in a refined suit, exudes warmth with a gentle smile and an expression brimming with affection. Lily sensed the tears welling up before she even arrived at the altar. With every step she took, the echoes of her journey resonated within her, a testament to the path that had led her to this moment. The beginning of her journey, the challenges she encountered, and how, defying all odds, love managed to reshape her entirely. As she approached Dylan, he grasped her hand and softly murmured, "You look beautiful." Her lips curved into a smile. "And you're now bound to me for eternity." He let out a gentle laugh, holding her hand tightly. "And I couldn't be more delighted about that." The ceremony was filled with deep emotions. They shared profound vows, pledges of everlasting devotion. And at last, the officiant declared, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Dylan wasted no time as he enveloped her in his embrace, kissing her with a profound intensity. The audience erupted in applause, showering them with a cascade of flower petals. In that instant, Lily understood that this moment would be forever imprinted in her mind. 2 weeks post-wedding, Lily found herself in the bedroom, gazing intently at a pregnancy test. She blinked several times. 2 lines. 2. Her heart pounded in her chest. Oh my goodness. She was expecting. She was completely engulfed by a blend of astonishment and joy. She and Dylan were expecting a child. Upon hearing the bedroom door creak open, she swiftly pivoted and caught sight of Dylan entering. "Collins, you must take a look at this. I recently received an invitation to..." He paused as he caught sight of her expression. He scowled. "What seems to be the issue?" Lily inhaled deeply. She seized the test and presented it to him. Dylan gazed at the object in her hand, blinked several times, and furrowed her brow, puzzled by its meaning. Yet, in that moment his eyes grew wide. Could this be? Lily beamed with joy. Absolutely. For a brief instant, he remained motionless. He stepped closer, gently cradled her face in his hands, and kissed her with a depth of feeling that words could not capture. As he withdrew, tears glistened in his eyes. "We're expecting a little one." Lily chuckled, a wave of joy swelling within her. "We exist." Dylan enveloped her in his embrace, cradling her softly. "My affection for you knows no bounds." She smiled, her head gently finding a resting place on his chest. "I cherish you as well." In that instant, she realized this was merely the start of an exciting journey ahead. A fresh chapter filled with affection, development, and joy. Yet again, it was not solely her and Dylan. At that moment, they had become a family. What are your thoughts on the narrative of Lily and Dylan? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section. How would you rate this story on a scale from 0 to 10? Join us by subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell to stay updated on all our narratives. You're welcome to explore more heartfelt narratives by clicking here on the final screen.